Michelle Korsmo.
Hi, I'm Michelle Korsmo. I am the CEO of the American Land Title Association. We represent 4,800 and some odd title insurance and settlement companies, including abstractors, real estate agents, I'm sorry, not real estate agents, title agents, title attorneys, and title insurance companies. And I think, Margot, you'll find that we share a lot of your concerns about making sure people understand the process. So as we talk about having e-closings and bringing this electronic transaction forward, we really think about technology of having the ability to streamline the process and provide more uniformity in the information, as well as reducing the duplication of the documents that are signed during the process, and really providing consumers more time to review and understand and ask the questions that they need to have asked before they go through the process that's involved in getting a mortgage and purchasing a home. So as we talk about improving the consumer experience, what it really means to us is understanding. That's what's going to improve the consumer experience. And we know that it's very important for the home buyer to have the ability to interact on a personal level as well about questions that they actually now have a little bit more time to understand what those questions may be. And so for us, it's remembering that people aren't buying the home from a computer and that they shouldn't feel like that throughout the process. And we want consumers to know about the documents received, the status of the transaction, so really what's already happened and what has left to be happened in the transaction, and then also have the ability to understand what they're agreeing to in the contracts. So technology should enhance and not replace the personal interaction that the settlement professionals provide to the home buyers. So when you think about the home buying process, remember it's a complicated transaction that's culminated in an event. And that closing as an event is really an action force in the event. And so because everybody knows that the home buyer is going to be at the table sitting across from a real estate settlement professional, they've got the ability to get documents signed. So from the lenders to the homeowners association, everyone's giving the settlement providers those documents so that they can get those documents signed. We think that with the technology being brought in to have more of electronic documentation that can be provided to the consumers earlier on in the process, instead of everything happening at that moment, they're going to have a better experience and feel much more empowered. So the idea is that you're not coming to a closing looking at a stack of 150 pages, knowing that 60 of those pages require a signature, and you've got a limited amount of time to do that, when what people are really thinking about at that moment in time is where's the couch going to go in the living room. So the other thing that we think about a lot when we think about electronic closings is how the documents are received, how those documents are signed and returned, and then how those documents are retained. So when we go through this process, we want to make sure that we think about technology from the perspective of the home buyer and seller. So how's the technology interface with them? And one bit of information that we've taken into account, the Houston Association of Realtors did a survey, and they found that 92% of the respondents would prefer to use an online tracking tool to get the status of their transaction. So I think that this tells us that consumers do want more technology in the process, but we need to think about what technology they want. They want technology that gives them more information about what's happening. And so all of that information should really be designed with giving the consumers the ability to feel empowered about their transaction and have more knowledge of the process. Buying a home is exciting, and we should keep this as an exciting, positive experience. And the more that we can streamline, provide uniformity, and really eliminate duplication, the more positive the entire experience is going to be, and people are going to be happy to get in that home and really decide where that couch should go. Thank you.
Thank you. And the next question is for Michelle Korsmo. I'll kind of combine two questions into one for you. You can speak a little bit more about how technology and electronic documentations in the settlement and title space translates to benefits for consumers or lenders in the mortgage process. And I know that I don't know if you could speak a little bit. We highlighted in our report the PREA numbers that 65% of consumers live in counties that currently have e-recording capabilities. What are some of the obstacles that you've heard the counties face towards integrating e-recording capabilities?
Sure. So to answer the first question about how consumers and lenders can benefit from much more of an electronic transaction, I think the best thing is that without a whole stack of papers and kind of one moment in time that is that action forcing event, if you're able to pull apart the process a little bit before you get to that moment of closing, the borrower, especially the home buyer, is able to focus on what's really important. And we think that the forms that were created by the Bureau throughout their integrated mortgage disclosure process on the RESPA TILA disclosures are really going to go a long way in helping that effort, because all of the relevant information really is in that first page, if not the first 2 pages of both the loan estimate and the closing disclosure. So that's a great thing. And I think as we talk about all of this, we're really talking about changing the process. We're changing the process as it gets to implementation of the new forms. We're changing the process as it's talking about making, from beginning to end, it be an electronic transaction. And so with that, having the consumers be able to focus in and see very clearly what's the most important, and then have more time to look at all of the documents and do so at their convenience, takes a lot of the stress away from the process. And that, like, being able to pull the stress away from that closing table is one of those things that will give the consumer the understanding, or at least the ability to ask the questions if they want to ask them, and have a sense they have a greater understanding. And that greater understanding just will, I think, entirely enhance their experience. So,
And I'm unfortunately going to, just for the interest of
Sure.
time, I'm going to have to skip the e-recording
skip
question.
the recording.
Yes,
The
I'm so
recorders,
sorry.
the recorders of America are going to be disappointed.
I'm so sorry.
But I will say, just quickly, that I think that, while it's 60% of the country is able to experience e-recording, they do, through PREA and the recording efforts, they do spend a lot of time trying to figure out how to get to that process. And I think as all of this moves forward, the recorders will definitely be there to be a partner in that process.
Thank you. And Amy,